Nice
Talk to you
catching
later.
up.
Yeah. Talk to you soon.
All right, let's see. Hello. Okay, so let me make sure you can hear me. Hi there, Kathleen. Hi, Gail. Hi, Jen.
With Fiverr, you can find
There's
top-rated
my
web
ads playing.
developers
Hold
to
on.
build your business.
Shh. Okay. So, yep, I'm right in. Jen's telling you, Cheryl, we're right in. I'm here. Oh, hold on a minute. Okay, so how many of you are familiar with Chris Coleman? Chris Coleman is a case that I covered probably right after right in with the Chris Watts, because I compared the three Chris's. I compared Chris Watts to Chris Coleman to Christopher Longo. Oh boy, that's some case. But I did in-depth coverage of this back in 2018, 2019. So I don't know, some of you might have been with me then, some of you might not have been. How many are familiar with Chris Coleman? Now, maybe if I tell you something about Joyce Meyer, you might remember. If you think you didn't, he was security for Joyce Meyer. Does that ring any bells that he did security for Joyce Meyer? Hi, Callie, Lisa. Hi, Twisted. Hey, I'm going to get your invoice out. Don't worry about it. It's just been with jury duty. Oh, and I got to tell you, I called in on my jury duty, and I don't have to go tomorrow, but I have to call tomorrow night again and see if I have to go on Thursday, and I'm going to have to do that for a week. So far, I don't have to go to jury duty tomorrow, which is good. And I'm going to try to get your stuff together, Twisted. So, you're not at all familiar either. Okay. Well, then, this is a very interesting case. And it has some similarities to a lot of family annihilators that we cover. This guy, because of his position with Joyce Meyer, and it was Myers or Meyer, he said he couldn't get a divorce. But there was another woman, you would be very surprised at what other woman it is. Hi, Recliner Detective, I haven't seen you in so long. Let's see, yes, he's now in Wisconsin at Waupun. Right, Dodge Correctional with Chris Watts. You're right there, Recliner Detective, good. And his thing was, he kind of said that he had this great job with Joyce Meyer, and if he got divorced, he'd lose his job, which I believe she said would not be the case. It was not when she went on the stand. Joyce Meyer had to testify in this trial. And the other thing was he ended up hooking up with his wife's friend, but then there's even crazier stuff that happened between his parents and stuff that went on. So I'm going to go through that because I did a whole in-depth thing about his parents when I covered this case, about how they were, about, who he went with. But first we're going to talk about what he did to his family, because it's horrific. And I have his interview and it's already queued up. So we're going to be able to go through this. Let me just grab the information on this, and I've got the evidence for the trial. I pulled up my old file here and ready to go. Let's see, Chris Coleman case right here. Okay, so at 6:43 a.m. on May 5th of 2009, he was employed, Chris Coleman, this guy right here, Christopher Coleman, was employed as the Director of Security for Joyce Meyer Ministries, JMM. That's an internationally renowned Christian ministry. It's headquartered in Missouri. And he called his neighbor. Now, his neighbor was a detective, Detective Sergeant Justin Barlow of the Columbia Police Department. Then Chris said to Detective Barlow, he was at the gym, and after his workout, he called his house to try to wake up his wife. His wife's name's Sheri, but Sheri didn't answer. He said he was concerned something happened to Sheri. And how many of these people that kill their families and everything call these innocent people? Well, I mean, this is a detective. He's seen stuff still, but what he sees is horrific. These are his neighbors, but they do that. They have people go in, just like Simintali had her daughter go in and discover her father murdered, right, when Fabio was murdered. But it's just horrible. He tried to wake up his wife, Sheri, but Sheri did not answer. And he said he was concerned something happened to her. The detective was aware that Chris had made previous reports to the Columbia Police Department that he and his family had been threatened due to his employment with Joyce Meyer Ministries. This was another thing. He said he was getting threatening emails. And so now he's making it look like someone acted on those emails. Sergeant Barlow went to Chris's house to check on the welfare of Chris's family. And soon after, another officer arrived. And after ringing the doorbell and getting no answer, they went to the back of the house and looked in a basement rear window, and that it was standing open. The police entered the home through the basement window and saw disturbing messages written on the wall in red spray paint. And I am going to show you those because I have them in the evidence folder here. So let me pull this one over there. And this says, "You have paid." Punished, biatch, you biatch, punished. And this right there is the house. So, can I get back to my... Where did you go? Oh, here you are. Okay. So, where was I? We got the disturbing messages written on the walls in red spray paint. Now then, Chris Coleman gets to the house, and they tell him, no, stay outside. The police went up the stairs to the second floor, where they found the sons, Garett, Gavin, and his wife Sheri, dead. When interviewed by the police, now we're going to listen to Chris's interview. So let me pull that up.
We've got when you left the house this morning, was your wife alive?
Oh, yeah.
What would you say if I told you that I don't think she was?
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think she was. I mean, she was.
Okay.
She was laying right beside me.
Right. And I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that you were there, and I'm not doubting that you care. But I am doubting that she was alive when you left this morning. Physically, what we have are different ways to tell how long a person's been deceased. That was done. And what do you think that showed?
I don't know. I guess the time frame when I was gone. I mean...
No, you guys wrong. Chris, we need to get this resolved, okay? That you can't argue with physical evidence.
Right. I'm not trying to argue with it.
All right. What I'm telling you is there is no other explanation. There's no other reason that the information we have would support what you're telling us. That it can't. It can't. You've told us a story and we've gone over it numerous times. Right. You know what? We walk out to Justin, maybe we missed this. Let's go in and talk to him about this and just make sure that we're not missing something. Let's give him every opportunity to tell us exactly what happened and maybe we're missing something. Right. So that's why we go out and we come back in, and we go out and we come back in. Right. I did have to use the restroom, that was legitimate, but we go out and we come back in. And we felt very comfortable that we were giving you every opportunity to tell us something that was going to contradict the information that we had. Mm-hmm. All right? right? We've got this information, you're saying it, and we're giving you opportunity to give us something contrary to what you told us before, so that, okay, yeah, all right, that would make sense. That hasn't happened.
I'm just telling you
That
what
hasn't
happened.
happened. Listen, man, she wasn't alive when you left.
She was alive.
No,
She was laying right beside
Listen
me.
to me. We can go back and forth with this all day long, but the physical evidence doesn't lie, man. She was not alive when you left this morning. The children weren't alive when you left this morning.
Yes, they were.
No, come on, Chris.
They
We gotta get over this. Now, there's reasons, and that's the point we're at. I want to hear the reasons. Now's when we need to find out what happened, man. It's so important. You're at a great point to be able to help us to try to figure this out. We already know what happened. We need to know why it happened.
I don't
All
know
right,
what to tell you.
listen, no, you do know what to tell us.
No, I don't.
Come on, Chris. She was not alive when you left. The children were not alive when you left. You know that's true, and I know that's true.
No, it just...
We need to clear this up now. We need to clear it up now. Did something happen? What happened?
Nothing happened.
What was going on in your life, Chris? Because I can't buy what you're saying. The physical evidence does not lie, Chris. It does not. She was not alive when you left, period. The physical evidence does not lie, man.
What do you want me to tell you?
The
I
truth,
don't.
the
No, I'm
truth.
telling you the truth.
How did we get to this point? That's what I need to know. I need to know how and why we got to the point we're at right now. We both know you're not telling me the truth. We both know that. I've done this a long time. I'm looking into your eyes, and I can tell you you're not being truthful, Chris. We need an answer. And there are answers. As bad as this sounds, as bad as this looks, or you may think it looks, we understand, and I've talked to many people who have given me reasons, and it's like, you know what, okay, all right, I can understand how somebody might have been feeling that at that time, and maybe they acted on it and they shouldn't have, and they regret it. There's no way to turn clocks back. You can't turn clocks back. You understand that, don't you?
Right.
You can't turn the clock back. The only thing we can do is go forward from this point, and we need to know what and why it happened. Come on, Chris, help me out with this.
I'm telling you, I've already told you. I've told everybody. I told the guy in the ambulance. I told you. I told him.
The more we go back like this, the more it makes me think that there maybe even isn't a good explanation for it. I mean, we need to know what happened. We can't keep going on this. It didn't, she was alive when I left. We know that's not true, and there's nothing we can do about changing that. If we know she wasn't alive when you left this morning, there's got to be an explanation. Now is the time to tell us. Now is the time to get this out in the open.
I don't know what else to tell you.
Yes, you do. Yes,
No.
you do. You have to tell me the truth, Chris.
I'm telling you the truth.
Were you involved in her death?
No,
Okay. Was someone you know involved in her death?
I don't know.
Did you know? Did you talk to anybody about arranging her death?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. You're.
So that was part of the interview there. And so let me go back to hi Super Chat Cat. Okay. Go back to our story and so you can understand what this was like, okay? So they went upstairs, right? And there were more messages. Let me get those. Stuff here. Okay, I am watching you, and then it says F you. Okay, let me go back to my narrative here. Okay, so when he was interviewed by the police, he told the investigators that his wife was alive when he left the house at 5:45 a.m. to go to the gym. And during the interview, police noticed scratches on his arm. Chris said he got that one set of scratches a day earlier, but he was unsure how he got them. He said he received another abrasion on his arm after he hit his arm on the gurney in the ambulance when he was transported after his family was found dead. Initially, he told the police his marriage was good, but later he revealed that near the end of 2008, he and Sheri had some problems in their marriage, which they worked out through the help of counseling. The police soon discovered that Chris was having an affair with a woman named Tara Lintz. Now, this was a high school friend of his wife's who was living in Florida. He denied the affair, but after he was advised investigators were already talking to Tara, he admitted to the affair, but he minimalized it. Now, as part of the murder investigation, many of their friends were interviewed, and several friends told the police that Sheri was upset because Chris wanted a divorce. They said that he told Sheri she was ruining his life, but he was afraid he would lose his job with Joyce Meyer Ministries if he divorced her. So the investigators flew down to Florida. They interviewed Tara. And during that interview, Tara revealed that Chris told her he planned to serve divorce papers to Sheri on May 5th, 2009. That she and Chris planned to go on a Caribbean cruise on June 14th, 2009, and that they planned a tentative wedding date of January 2010. Tara also told investigators that she had been looking at engagement rings, she was registering on wedding websites, and they were looking for homes in the St. Louis area for her and Chris to live in once they got married, and they even discussed baby names. So the cybercrime investigators tracked the threatening emails received by the defendant pertaining to his job at Joyce Meyer Ministries. Let me see if I can pull those up. Hang on one second. Let's see if these are the emails that... Let's see. No, that's not that email. Let's see what this one is. Okay, here's one of the threatening emails, right? It says, make this a little bit bigger. It had a destroychris@gmail.com, to Coleman at Joyce Meyer Ministries, right? Your family is done. That was in November of 2008. Then again, this is also November 2008. They will be done while you are gone at the Houston conference. I know you will be out of town. Tell Chris his family is dead. I know his schedule and they will die. Next time that mother blanker will let me talk to Joyce. Okay, so they then, hold on, track these emails, and they were coming from Coleman's computer, in which the word opportunities is misspelled in the same manner as it was in the threatening letters. Medical reports, including the results of the autopsy, showed that Sheri, Garett, and Gavin were all dead before 5 a.m., before he left the house. Police checked his cell phone records and investigated where the calls were placed by Chris that morning of the murders, and based upon the foregoing, he was charged with the information by May 20th, 2009 with 3 counts of first-degree murder by strangulation. Prior to trial, numerous motions were filed in limine, and let's see, the motion set forth indicate the state was going to attempt to produce evidence that the defendant sent multiple threats to himself by email and letter to produce a fictitious suspect who could be blamed for the murders, and was going to attempt to produce evidence that the defendant spray painted graffiti throughout the house where the victims were killed. The motion went on to allege that the state had produced a curriculum vitae of a CV and a report from a purported expert in the area of forensic linguistic analysis, but that was not accepted science. This is from his appeal here, so to give us the information on the case. So anyway, let me go over here to... So a Columbia police officer, Jason Donjon, said that on May 5th, 2009, he was dispatched to the Coleman residence after Detective Sergeant Justin Barlow, that's the neighbor that Chris called. And Barlow called Donjon and advised that he got a call from Chris Coleman asking for the police to check on the residence. When Donjon arrived, Detective Barlow was on the front porch and explained that he rang the doorbell and no one answered. Donjon then went around the back of the house and noticed the open window with the window screen leaning against a table and patio chairs. A photograph of the scene was introduced into evidence, and Donjon radioed Barlow, who was still on the front of the house, that he found an open window. After identifying themselves as the police and getting no response, they entered the house through the window. They did not find anyone in the basement, so they went up the stairs where they found disturbing messages written in red spray paint on the walls near the kitchen with disturbing writing, including the word F-U-C-K and the words, "I am always watching." And I've showed you the photographs of that. Donjon and Barlow heard the garage door open, which turned out to be Chris Coleman arriving home. Barlow told him, "Stay outside. Don't come in." Another police officer, Officer Patton, arrived on the scene, and Patton came into the house to help Donjon and Barlow search it. When they failed to find anyone on the first floor, they went upstairs. Donjon testified that when he got to the top of the stairs, he looked into a bedroom to his left and he saw a white female who turned out to be Sheri Coleman lying naked and face down on the bed. There was a picture of that shown to the jury during the trial. And Donjon tried to find a pulse but was unable to get one, and he noticed that Sheri's skin was tough or thick. He attempted to roll her over, and he noticed that her head, shoulder, and arm all kind of moved as though they were locked into place when he lifted her up. He also noted that Sheri's chest was kind of reddish purple, deep bruising kind of color. And he explained that as a police officer who has investigated traffic accidents in which people have recently died, and in checking for a pulse, he found the skin on the deceased to be soft and not thick or rigid when he moved them. Never had that locking thing. He said he also never saw a jaundiced color or pooling of blood or bruising like he did on Sheri. Donjon then went into Garett's bedroom and he found the little boy dead in his bed. Garett's picture of Garett's deceased body was shown to the jury. Donjon testified there was spray paint in the room which seemed to be in a circular pattern. He also noticed spray paint on Garett's hand and arm. Donjon testified the skin around Garett's eyes and mouth was purple or blue, and he noticed that the skin on Garett's neck was thick and tough like it was on Sheri, and that the skin was jaundiced and reddish. Detective Barlow told Donjon that Gavin was also dead. Donjon identified People's Exhibit 12, a picture of the deceased Gavin lying in his bed with the words F.U. written out, abbreviated, spray painted in red on the covers. The officer searched the rest of the home and found no intruders. Officer Patton testified similarly to Officer Donjon. He testified that there was spray painting on the walls leading upstairs, and he specifically remembered BITCH being one of the words spray painted on the wall. He testified the officers heard the defendant downstairs yelling something, so they went down and they told him, "Don't come upstairs." Defendant cooperated and was escorted out to the garage through the kitchen. Patton testified that once Chris Coleman was outside, Barlow knelt down, put his hand on the defendant's shoulder, and told the defendant that his family was gone. And Chris Coleman started to cry. He made no attempt to go back into the house. Patton then used the defendant's garage door opener to shut the garage door so that Chris could not go into the house. Patton remembered the defendant saying that he needed to call work. Patton heard Chris Coleman using his cell phone to call his father. Patton stayed with Chris while he talked to his father. At some point, a chaplain arrived and escorted Chris to the back of an ambulance. The police canvassed the neighborhood, but they found nothing suspicious. Patton testified the coroner, who has since died, arrived at 10:57 a.m., took pictures of the scene, and took the body temperature of the victims. Patton testified that he was at the Coleman residence one other time in January 2nd of 2009 after the Colemans found a threatening letter in their mailbox. Chris gave him the letter, which was introduced into evidence. It states, "F you, deny your God publicly or else. No more opportunities. Time is running out for you and your family. Have a good time in India, MFer." Patton pointed out the word opportunities was misspelled in the letter. Gary Hutchinson, a paramedic, said that he responded to the Coleman house and that Chris Coleman was outside crying when he arrived at 7:05 a.m. Hutchinson noticed spray paint on the walls. He found the lifeless bodies of Sheri, Garett, and Gavin. He said that they were all cold and stiff. The rigor mortis had set in, and that in his experience, most bodies that have rigor mortis like that have been down for a while. Hutchinson testified that he believed he was sent to the scene to confirm Barlow's suspicion that the victims had been dead for a while. He was only at the house a short time and then transported Chris to the police station via ambulance. Okay, and then the Hutchinson's partner, Jared Hutch, testified similarly to Hutchinson and testified that he and Hutchinson checked on Gavin and that Hutch grabbed Gavin's right arm to see if rigor mortis, a stiffening of the body, had set in. They found it was present. Hutchinson testified that this is an obvious sign of death, so there is no reason to perform CPR. Okay. Then another investigator, Deborah Von Nida, with the coroner's office, testified that she entered the Coleman residence at 11 a.m. and at 11:08, the ambient temperature in the bedroom where Sheri was found was 76.6 degrees Fahrenheit. She did a liver probe on Sheri at 11:09 and found that Sheri's core temperature was 90.4. The ambient temperature in Garett's room was 75.2, and his core temperature was 91.8. And then Gavin, the temperature of his body was not established because there were long strands of hair on his body and spray paint, and they wanted to preserve that as evidence. Forensic pathologists performed the autopsies of all three of the victims. Dr. Nanduri found a ligature, furrow bruising, and abrasions around Sheri's neck after finding the same type of ligature markings and abrasions on the boys. She concluded that all three died as a result of ligature strangulation. Let's see here. Dr. Michael Baden, the chief forensic pathologist for the New York State Police, who was also the chief forensic pathologist in the late 1970s for the United States Congress Select Committee on Assassinations that looked into the deaths of President Kennedy, and Reverend Martin Luther King, testified regarding the time of death. He estimated he performed over 20,000 autopsies in his 45-year career, and he testified there are three cardinal ways to determine cause of death, including rigor mortis, lividity, which is the color of the body after death caused by the settling of blood, and body temperature. He said the stomach contents can help make a determination, but only if you know when the deceased last ate. He testified a chemical analysis of eye fluid for the purpose of finding potassium can also be of assistance in determining the time of death. The major case squad assigned to the instant case contacted Dr. Baden in May of 2009 for his opinion. Preliminary information provided to Dr. Baden was that there were three victims. The husband and father of the victim said he left the house 1 hour and 15 minutes before the police arrived at the house and found all three dead at 7:10 a.m. The police said the bodies were cold, rigor mortis was present, and there were changes in the color of the bodies, which sounded like lividity to Dr. Baden. Based on that information provided to Dr. Baden, he opined that all three were dead before 5:43 a.m. when the husband left the house. He said, "It is often difficult to establish a time of death, but in this case, it wasn't a close call, given the only real information the police needed was whether or not the victims died before or after 5:43 a.m. Okay, now... Justin Barlow testified that on May 5th, 2009, he was a detective for the Columbia Police Department, and he lived catty corner from the Coleman family. Prior to the murders, he never spoke with Chris Coleman. Chris Coleman first approached the detective on November 14th, 2008, after he received a threatening email at work. Barlow did not have any involvement with that. Officer Zach Hopkins took that call. But it was not a crime necessarily occurring in Columbia. However, the Columbia police agreed to provide extra patrols, for the Coleman residents. On January 2nd, 2009, Officer Patton responded to the Coleman house after there was a threatening letter previously set forth, which was found in the mailbox. On April 27th, 2009, Chris said he found another threatening letter in his mailbox, and that letter was introduced as People's Exhibit 25 and warns the defendant to stop traveling and to stop carrying on with his fake religious life of stealing people's money. It declares that this is the last warning and that your worst nightmare is about to happen. The police canvassed the neighborhood and stopped at Barlow's house. Barlow read the letter and thought it sounded more amplified than the first threatening letter, so he called a friend at the Illinois State Police and had a surveillance camera pointed out of his 5-year-old's window towards the Coleman's mailbox. The camera was set up on April 28, 2009, and Barlow testified that Chris was aware of it. On May 5, 2009, Chris called Barlow at 6:43 a.m., said he was on his way home from Gold's Gym in South Country, Missouri. He said he would be home in about 5 minutes and that he was just crossing the Jefferson Barracks Bridge from Missouri into Illinois, and he tried calling his wife several times to get the kids up, but she was not answering the phone, and he was concerned. Barlow, who had been asleep, got up, got dressed, called the police department, and asked for a uniformed officer to meet him at the Coleman residence. Videotape from the camera installed in Barlow's residence showed the defendant leaving the house at 5:43 a.m. It also shows Barlow arriving at the house at 6:51 a.m. The videotape also shows the defendant returning home at 6:56 a.m. It took the defendant 13 minutes to get from the bridge where he told Barlow he was at to his home. Barlow testified that trip normally takes 7 minutes. Barlow entered the Coleman's house with Officer Don John and testified consistently with Don John about what they saw inside that house, including the spray-painted messages and the deceased bodies of Sheri, Garett, and Gavin. Barlow testified there were no signs of forced entry into the home, such as broken glass or debris on the floor where the window was open to the basement. Barlow was aware that he brought moisture into the house with him on his tennis shoes when he entered the basement. After they heard the defendant downstairs asking what was going on, the officers went downstairs and Barlow told the defendant that they didn't make it. Chris began to cry. Barlow recalls Chris asking him what happened, but nothing else. Chris did not demand to see his family, nor did he try to go upstairs. He went outside with the officers, he sat on the sidewalk, and he cried. But Barlow testified no one told Chris what they actually found upstairs. Chris remained at the scene for approximately 20 to 25 minutes until he was taken by ambulance to the police station, where a 5-hour and 56-minute interview was conducted. So that part is played for the jury. Chris did not ask how his family was killed. 4 hours into the interview, Trooper Bivens, the other officer conducting the interview with Barlow, specifically asked the defendant if he knew how his family died. Chris replied that he didn't know. During the interview, Chris asks for a jacket, even though Barlow did not think the interview room was cold. At one point during the interview, officers walked out of the room, and Chris picked up one of the officer's notes and looked at them. Let's see here. Okay, so about the, let's go to Tara. Officer Ken, I was going to call him W because he's got a crazy last name, an officer with training and experience in computer forensics, including data acquisition, recovered deleted files, data recovery, and analyzing computers, testified about explicit photographs and videos of Chris and Tara retrieved from their computers and cell phones. Ken W. analyzed the defendant's BlackBerry cell phone, his Dell laptop computer, a Dell Tower, an Apple laptop, and a thumb drive located at the Coleman's residence. He also analyzed Tara's BlackBerry and laptop. He found photographs on both BlackBerries and on Tara's laptop, as well as on a thumb drive. Some of the same pictures were found on multiple devices. Now, hold on. I'm going to show you some of this evidence, okay? That's him and Tara. Him and Tara. Him and Tara. Let me see what this one is. This one of the emails? Yeah, this is one of the emails that was received. So it says, I know you all got my effing email. You think I am full of shite? Just wait. I will shoot their arses with my .40, kill them all. I'm so sick of biatches like her taking everyone's cash so she can fly her jet and pamper her white arse. F you all. Tell Chris I will kill them. He has no idea when, but it will happen. I'm sure you mother effers are going to try putting your PR security team at the house or police, whatever. I kill them, then I'm coming after Chris. Then you, Danny, then David. I may not be able to get to Joyce, but I'll get the rest of you MFers. F you all. I know when you read these. Just wait, you will see. F you all. Tell that biatch Joyce to give my money back and talk to me, and this will all stop. Until then, everyone will die, starting with Chris's wife and kids. I know his effing schedule. Every time Joyce is gone, he is gone. You MFers are probably wondering how I got your emails. You stupid Fs, just like every other company. So effing predictable, dumb arses. And that was exhibit for the jury. And then, let me see which one. This is another one, I believe. Yeah. So this one, I don't know why this opened over here instead of over here. Okay, this one says, I am giving you the last warning. You have not listened to me, and you have not changed your ways. I have warned you to stop traveling and to stop carrying on with this fake religious life of stealing people's money. You think you're so special to do what you do, protecting, or think you are protecting her? She is a blank and not worth your doing it. Stop today or else. I know your schedule. You can't hide from me ever. I'm always watching you. I know when you leave in the morning, and I know when you stay home. I saw you leave this morning. I will be watching. You better stop traveling and doing what you're doing. This is my last warning. Your worst nightmare is about to happen. And that was into evidence as well. Just going to check in with you guys and make sure that you're all here with me. Because, here we are. Okay. Everyone can hear and everyone's good? Hi, Jen Proctor. Bucky. Hi, Megan Els. How are you? Hi, Denise. Can everyone, hi, MSL. How are you? I hope everyone can hear and everything's good. You all with me on this so far? So, a lot of you didn't hear about Chris Coleman or didn't know about this. There's a lot more involved about this. There's a lot more that I covered about Chris's parents and how he was raised and all of that, and also the relationship with Tara and also Chris's dad. And again, Tara was Sheri's high school friend, and he met Tara because he was down with Joyce Ministries in Florida where Tara lived, and Sheri suggested that Tara go to the event, and that's where she met Chris and was planning a wedding and buying a house, and Chris was telling her that he was divorcing his wife, right? Thanks, MSL. Okay, so let's keep going. Let me get my other stuff here. Okay. All right, so they're going through all the electronics of Chris and his house and Tara's, and they're finding those pictures that I showed you there. And let's see what they found in total here. Some of the same pictures were found on multiple devices. And let me see what Officer Ken said, that there were non-explicit pictures of Chris and Tara found on one or both of their cell phones. He also testified that there were exhibits of non-explicit pictures of them both during his analysis of different devices. And then he said there were several hundred more images on their cell phones. In addition, he found several hundred explicit photographs that depicted either Chris or Tara in various stages of nudity. The trial court only allowed 4 explicit photographs shown, and where they showed breast, buttocks, genitalia were obscured before the jury was allowed to see them. Officer Ken testified that he found several videos on Chris's Dell laptop which depicted him and or Tara without clothes on, and that there was a video of Chris naked in front of his computer, which the jury was allowed to see, except that his genitalia was blacked out. There was a video of him pleasuring himself in the shower to a webcam for Tara. Let's see what else he had here. There was another video which included a naked Tara in a hotel room in Hawaii, where her private parts and stuff was blacked out for the jury. Let's see. So the trial court did not permit the jury to see any of that video, but allowed Officer Ken to describe the video and play the audio. Officer Ken identified another exhibit was a note he found on the defendant's laptop in the form of an email. The same note was found on the defendant's BlackBerry, and it lists Tara's birthday, her height, her eye color, her shoe size, her ring size, her jean size, her favorite flowers and perfume preferences, and her likes and dislikes regarding food and sports teams. Next to a notation of Christmas, it states promise ring, loves, circle diamond, or diamond cross. Another entry on it states our daughter's name, Zoe Lynn Coleman. And then there was a group of exhibit of notes which were found in which Tara updated the defendant's calendar when she got her period, her dog's birthday, and the defendant's birthday. Officer Ken testified he was aware of the threatening note that was found in the defendant's mailbox in which the word opportunities was misspelled. Officer Ken did a search of the defendant's computer and found several hits of several different files that had the word opportunities misspelled, or the word opportunity misspelled the same way, with the U replaced with the O replaced with the U. Okay, now let's see. Tara testified that she and Sheri were best friends in high school and that they stayed in touch thereafter. Tara knew Chris, but their relationship became more than friends in November of 2008 when she saw Chris at a Joyce Meyer Ministries conference. Sheri called Tara and told her to go to the conference, which was being held in Florida, where Tara lived. Thereafter, she and Chris Coleman talked on the phone and texted constantly. Their relationship became physical in the middle of December of 2008 when the defendant dropped off Joyce Meyer in Florida so that Joyce Meyer could go on a cruise, and Tara and Chris Coleman met at a hotel in Orlando. Now, hold on, I'm just going to go put up some of these. Other photos here. Okay, and I think this is the one where, let me see. Yeah, he puts all of her likes and dislikes on. Height 5'5", weight he has not filled in, eye color brown, hair color brown, shoe size 7.5, ring size thumb and forefinger 8, the rest is 7, hates McDonald's, likes fudge, sundae with nuts, favorite college, Florida, Devil Rays and Buccaneers are good, Christmas, a promise ring, loves circle diamond or diamond cross, perfume Ed Hardy pink bottle, middle name Lynn, favorite NBA team none really, into college, t-shirt size prefers extra large but large will do in t-shirts, loves pink and skulls, favorite song AC/DC balls, comfort food macaroni and cheese, extra cheese and hot dogs, and loves fair corn dogs. Put her address in there, jean size 7 or 9 depending on the cut, short size, medium, favorite flowers, any colored tulips and pink roses, fantasy is sex outside, a beach, sex in a limo, favorite ice cream, coffee, favorite food, pumpkin loaf, macadamia nut cookies, chocolate chip cookies, loves Christmas music, favorite holiday, Christmas, favorite color, pink. Day Tara changed my life, 11/5/08. Panty size medium, bra size 34 double D, BioFit. Coffee, caramel latte with skim milk, extra caramel. Take normal amount, put half as much more. Favorite album, Vintage Pearl Jam. Favorite bird, the raven. Favorite poet, Edgar Allan Poe. Favorite drink, Patron and Chambord margarita with sugar on the rim. Netflix username and password, our daughter's name, Zoe Lynn Coleman. Another favorite song, This Used to Be My Playground by Madonna. Gift, looking for website, Noble Collection, fluffy stuff, Try Wizard Cup. That was another exhibit. Okay, so let's look at, what is this one? Let me see what this one is. Dan Meyer. This was 9/12/2004. Says, it's amazing how God works. I hope my stupidity has not screwed this opportunity up. Me and my wife are 110% in agreement. No strings attached. I apologize to both of you for wasting all of our time the other day. Between Paul Sherman waking me up Friday and speaking some sense into me, and my wife bringing a word that was given to me from Dick Mills a couple of months ago, both of these things showed me that I let the devil get into the middle of the whole thing. It won't happen again. I'm not sure what you told Joyce and Dave, but that is not me. I want to be a servant to whatever they need. So that was about some trouble. I'm sure we're going to hear about that in a second here. I'll go into that. But let's see. I just want to make sure that we're up with the evidence here. Okay. So back to... They met at that hotel in Orlando. Tara testified that she communicated constantly with Chris between November of 2008 and May of 2009, during which both professed their love for each other. In addition to meeting at a hotel in Orlando, they also met in Arizona and Hawaii while Chris was on business for Joyce Meyer. Tara testified she stayed in Chris's hotel rooms, had sex with him during these trips, and she testified that she and Chris planned on getting married after he divorced Sheri. The plan was for Tara to move to Illinois. Tara testified that she and the defendant got matching promise rings, and Tara was wearing hers at the trial. Chris told Tara he talked to an attorney about getting a divorce. The divorce papers were being prepared, and he was scheduled to pick up the papers from the lawyer on Monday, May 4th. He said he was going to give them to Sheri and ask her for a divorce. Chris did not give Sheri divorce papers on May 4th, and he explained to Tara that he was unable to do so because Sheri's name was spelled incorrectly. He said that he asked the attorney to correct the typo and the papers would be ready to be picked up on May 5th. Tara testified that she and Chris planned to go on a cruise to St. Thomas in June, and the tickets had already been purchased with his personal credit card. She testified that she spoke with Chris on her cell phone on the evening of May 4th and texted constantly with him throughout the day and evening, but stopped texting about 10:30 p.m. when he told her he was going to bed. She did not have any communication with him on the morning of May 5th. And then she learned about the murders when Chris's father called Tara at 10 a.m. and told her that Sheri and the boys had been murdered. Tara testified Chris texted her while he was being interrogated at the police station and called her later that evening when he left the police station. 2 days after the murders, Chris called Tara again while she was talking with the Illinois detectives who went to Florida to question her. When she told Chris she was being interviewed, he said, "Oh, really? Interesting." Either she told Chris or Chris told her that the police were looking for a motive. She didn't talk to Chris again. Tara said she was aware that there had been 4 threatening letters that Chris received. One was received approximately 18 months prior to the murders. Tara acknowledged that she received sexually explicit photographs from Chris's brother Keith, and that Sheri's brother contacted her via social media and asked her to marry him. Okay, then you want me to read that again? Okay. Tara acknowledged that she received sexually explicit photographs from Chris Coleman's brother, Keith, and that Sheri's brother contacted her via social media and asked her to marry him. She also acknowledged that she took a cruise with another male, Jesse, in December of 2008, and she said she used Chris Coleman's computers on occasion. Elizabeth McNeil testified that she lives in Tampa, Florida, that she was friends with Tara in the fall of 2008 into the spring of 2009, and that she was aware that Chris and Tara were a couple. She testified that approximately a week prior to Christmas 2009, that Tara was in Florida and went to the Cheesecake Factory with a group of about 10 people, including Tara and McNeil. Let's see here. Okay, Christine Sincata testified that she was good friends with Sheri and was employed at Joyce Meyer Ministries with Chris Coleman. She testified that Sheri sent her text messages in late December of 2008, and Sheri informed Christine that Chris Coleman wanted a divorce because Chris believed Sheri was messing up his work life. Christine testified she went out with Sheri in January of 2009, at which time they discussed Chris's desire for a divorce. Prior to Sheri contacting Christine about Chris's desire for a divorce, Chris contacted Christine in approximately mid-December of 2008 as part of her job at Joyce Meyer Ministries. Christine handled the ministry cell phones, and Chris sent her a message in which he stated that Sheri sent him some provocative pictures on his Joyce Meyer Ministry issued BlackBerry, and he wanted to know if those pictures could be seen by the ministry staff. Christine was not sure if the pictures could be seen by others, so she checked with Joyce Meyer Ministries technical staff and was told that no one at Joyce Meyer Ministries could see the pictures, so she advised Chris of that. Yeah, okay, that is, my wife sent me some sexually explicit photographs, and I'm just wondering. Okay. After Sheri sent her text messages about Chris's desire for a divorce, Christine got suspicious and told her brother, who also works for Joyce Meyer Ministries, about her conversation with Chris. Her brother then informed Daniel Meyer, Joyce Meyer's son, who also works for the ministry. Daniel told her to check Chris's phone, which she did. The records reveal that the defendant had made many phone calls and sent many texts to a Florida number, and that he had received many calls and texts from the same Florida number. It was Christine's understanding that Daniel Meyer was going to follow up with Chris Coleman. Christine testified that Joyce Meyer Ministries' policy regarding employment after an adulterous affair is such that, in most circumstances, they probably wouldn't be allowed to work there anymore if they were having an affair. Christine knew of one employee who was terminated for that specific reason. Christine said she was aware that Chris and Sheri received counseling with Mike Shepard, a pastor at Joyce Meyer Ministries, and Sheri told her that she and Chris were doing better after counseling. Christine admitted that as far as she knew, Chris was a good father. Okay, and then some Megan Turnbow testified that she previously worked with Sheri at Joyce Meyer Ministries, and the two remained friends after Sheri stopped working there. In late 2008 into 2009, Megan communicated with Sheri 2 or 3 times a week via email or instant message or direct phone contact. And Megan spoke about one specific occasion in November of 2008 where they had a discussion with Sheri. She had a discussion with Sheri about her relationship with Chris. Megan replied that she received a text message from Sheri that stated Chris had beat her up. Megan then testified that Sheri told her the defendant wanted to leave her and told her that she had ruined his life because he could not leave her due to his position at Joyce Meyer Ministries. Megan testified it was Joyce Meyer Ministries' policy to terminate any employee who was having an adulterous affair while working for Joyce Meyer Ministries. Okay. Kathy LaPlante, a good friend of Sheri's from working at Joyce Meyer Ministries, testified she communicated daily with Sheri in late 2008 and early 2009, and she recalled that one particular conversation in early 2009 that Sheri told her Chris wanted a divorce because he was tired of her. And she and their children were keeping him from his destiny and what God wanted him to do. Kathy was at the Colemans the Friday before Sheri was murdered, at which time Chris told her he had a working surveillance system in the house. Chris and Sheri both told her that they had a video of an unknown person putting something in their mailbox. But Sheri told Kathy there was really nothing that could be seen on it. Kathy was aware that Chris looked into some other job opportunities, such as starting a gym and his own security firm, but he stopped looking for other jobs after he received a raise from Joyce Meyer Ministries in January 2008. Kathy was aware that in the fall of 2008, Chris wanted to take off time from his job in order to renew his wedding vows, but was prohibited from doing so by Joyce Meyer Ministries. Another friend of Sheri's, Jessica Wade, they were friends through a St. Louis church they both attended, testified that she and Sheri communicated almost daily, and on Christmas Eve 2008, Sheri told her that Chris wanted a divorce because she and the boys were in his way and they were hindering his career. Another friend of Sheri's, Stephanie Jones, testified that in late 2008 and early 2009, they were regularly communicating with Sheri via phone, text message, and in person, and she talked to Sheri multiple times about the marriage. She referred to a series of text messages between her and Sheri on December 27, 2008, during which Sheri specifically asked Jones to pray for her because Chris wants a divorce. Stephanie said she would indeed pray for Sheri and asked when all of this happened, to which Sheri replied, "A couple of days ago. He said me and my kids are in the way of his job." Then a neighbor of the Colemans, Vanessa Ridgerix, we're going to call her Vanessa R. The Coleman's neighbor testified in late 2008, Chris was at her house and talked about wanting to divorce Sheri because she was spending too much money. He said he was going to wait until after the holidays to seek a divorce. Someone named Susan Boyd, who worked at Joyce Meyer Ministries, testified that from June 2004 until January 2008, she was a recruiter in the Human Resources Department, and she identified a script they used to interview applicants. And hold on, I think I have that. That's Exhibit 74. So let me see here. Is this Exhibit 74? Let's see if this is. No, but I want to show you this one anyway. This is another email. And this one says, "I'm sure this will make it into someone in the company. If you, Jack Arces, are like any other company, this will be someone's account. Pass this on to Chris. Tell Joyce to stop preaching. The blank or Chris's family will die. If I can't get to Joyce, then I will get to someone close to her. And if I can't get to him, then I will kill his wife and kids. I know Joyce's schedule, so I know Chris's schedule. If Joyce doesn't quit preaching this BS, then they will die." Okay, so then during this Houston conference, I will K them as they all sleep. If I don't hit there, I will K them during the book tour or the trip to India. I know where they live, and I know they are alone. Blank them all. They will die soon. Tell the mother, blank her next time, to let me talk to Joyce. She needs to hear what I have to say, and now she will. Okay, but there was another. Hold on, I gotta get to see if the other exhibits. Let me see here. Let's see what these are. These are texts. Let's see, Sheri. Sheri, I'm so sorry. I wish I had something good to say, but I'll just say I'll listen anytime. And if you need anything, let me know. This is that friend that she was texting with. What's up? Chris wants a divorce. There's the proof of that. And this is girl, I will definitely be praying. When did all that happen? A couple of days ago. He said me and my kids are in the way of his job. Okay, so let me go back to this. Okay, and for this they had made that was a model of the house that was used in the trial. Okay, with that, let me go back to our stuff here. Okay, so they had a script that they included asking applicants if they were divorced since being born again, and if they were, attempting to discern the circumstances of the divorce and whether or not there were biblical reasons for the divorce. Page 7 of the exhibit specifically set forth, people are reading us, not their Bibles. Anything against biblical principles, such as married people in adultery or single people living with the opposite sex, would be grounds for termination. Susan testified she specifically knew of a person who was terminated from Joyce Meyer Ministries because of an adulterous relationship. Susan admitted she was not working at the ministry in 2000 when Chris Coleman was hired, and that there were employees who worked at the ministry who were divorced. Joyce Meyer and her son Daniel testified via video depositions. The depositions were played for the jury, and Joyce testified that Chris worked for her for approximately 11 years, and that he started in security and eventually became the supervisor of security and her own personal security guard, earning a salary of $100,000 per year. She said that Chris was issued a computer by Joyce Meyer Ministries, and she never saw anyone else using that computer other than Chris. She testified that when she was initially interviewed by police on the day of the murder, she was unaware that Chris was having an affair. But by the end of the interview, the police informed her that Chris admitted he was having an affair. In the fall of 2008, Joyce became aware that Chris and Sheri were having marital problems, and she discussed the situation with Chris, who told her Sheri was controlling and never happy. Joyce recommended marriage counseling with Mike Shepard, a chaplain with Joyce Meyer Ministries. Chris and Shepard both reported to Joyce that the counseling was going well. Chris advised Joyce that he received an email and letters threatening his family if he did not stop working for her. Joyce was unaware of any of her 900 other employees ever receiving such threats. Joyce recalled calling the police on May 12, 2009, after her initial interview. She called to report that she remembered that around the middle of April 2009, the defendant did not seem as engaged in his employment as he had previously been. She informed the police that around the same time she noticed Chris started using a personal cell phone in addition to the issued cell phone by Joyce Meyer Ministries. Joyce also recalled taking a Joyce Meyer Ministries sponsored trip to Florida, and that Chris asked to stay a couple of days to visit with Sheri's friend. At the time, she didn't think anything was odd, but in retrospect, she became suspicious. Joyce admitted that if she knew Chris was having an affair, it could definitely have affected his job, and further admitted that other employees who had been having adulterous affairs had been fired. She explained that a divorce situation is not necessarily a cause for termination, but is looked at a case-by-case basis. And it is not the divorce that necessarily causes the termination, but the morality of the situation. Joyce testified that Chris called her directly on May 4th, 2009, and told her he was not feeling well and asked for the day off. She could not recall the defendant ever calling in sick prior to that occasion. She said Chris was a hard worker, and she encouraged him to take time off and spend it with Sheri and his family when he was not traveling with his job. She testified that after the murders, Chris resigned. Okay, let's see. She admitted that Chris was an excellent employee who started the security division from the ground up. Joyce said that Sheri never contacted her personally about their marital problems, but contacted her son, who then made her aware of the situation. She recalled that in August of 2008, Chris asked for time off for his 10-year anniversary, which he was denied due to a previously planned Joyce Meyer Ministry out-of-town convention on which he was about to accompany her. She said she offered the defendant other dates which he could take off, but the defendant declined. She admitted that to the best of her knowledge, the defendant loved his children and was good to them. Daniel Meyer, Joyce's son and chief executive officer at Joyce Meyer Ministries, testified consistently with Joyce about Sheri contacting him about marital troubles and that the couple was going to counseling. He testified that he became concerned about Chris's JMM-issued cell phone bill because it was increasing. He had the phone records pulled from the financial department, and he found that there was a particular number in Florida that Chris was frequently calling, even when traveling internationally. Daniel called the number, and a woman answered the phone. Daniel confronted Chris, who told him that the number was to a friend of Sheri's and that he'd been calling that friend's husband to seek marital advice. Chris told Daniel he could check with Sheri. Daniel accepted Chris's explanation. Daniel was aware Chris received threatening emails and letters. He testified he offered to have the defendant stop traveling or to have increased security at their home while he was traveling, but Chris declined. Daniel agreed there is no policy at Joyce Meyer Ministries that a divorce itself is grounds for termination. Sean Westfall, a police officer, testified that he responded to a call from the Coleman residence on April 27, 2009, about a threatening letter that was received in the mailbox. He talked to Chris, who said he found the letter at 6:10 p.m. after checking for the day's mail, not realizing that Sheri had already checked the mailbox at 3:10. Westfall said that gave a time frame in which the letter was placed in the mailbox. Westfall then canvassed the neighborhood to see if anyone saw anything suspicious during that 3-hour time period, but no one did. Chris also advised him that Sheri received a threatening letter on April 6, 2009, while he was traveling with Joyce Meyer Ministries, and that Sheri turned the letter over to the police. Westfall testified that he was unaware of any reports of Sheri bringing such a letter to the police. Chris said that the camera system he installed was not working because it did not come with a power source, and that he was waiting for the power source to arrive. In canvassing the neighborhood, Westfall talked to the defendant's neighbor, Sergeant Barlow, who arranged to have a camera set up in his house pointing towards the Coleman's mailbox. Jonathan Peters, a chaplain for the police department, was called to the scene to inform Chris that his family had been killed. When he arrived on scene, Chris was sitting in the driveway. He described Chris as stoic after he broke the news to Chris that his family had been killed, and said Chris was absolutely not hysterical. Peters accompanied Chris in the ambulance. During the drive, Chris looked down at his right arm and said, "How did that get there?" referring to some marks on his arm. Peters identified Exhibits 70 and 71, which showed the marks on his arm, his right arm. Peters testified he later saw the defendant strike his right arm on the gurney in the ambulance, but there was no way the marks were caused by the gurney, as the marks were there prior to the defendant striking the gurney. Peter recalled the defendant having a similar conversation with Jerry Paul, Columbia's police captain, about the marks on his arm and told Paul he didn't know how the marks got there. Jerry Paul testified consistently with Peters that the blow to the gurney could not have caused the marks on the defendant's arm. Paul testified the marks as some scratches and some redness with very preliminary bruising. When Paul asked the defendant what happened to his arm, Chris said he didn't know, and then abruptly changed the subject and started asking Paul other questions. Now, the state police lab employees testified about the evidence collected at the crime scene, and there were strands of hair that were recovered from Garett and Gavin's bodies, the boys. She said the hairs were dyed and forcibly removed and consistent with Sheri's hair. Another forensic scientist testified that he examined fingernail scrapings from the victims and the defendant for DNA analysis, and fingernails from Sheri's right hand contained male DNA, but none of the Coleman's males could be excluded as the source of the DNA. There was no significant DNA findings from the fingernail scrapings of Garett or Gavin or Chris. Okay, another forensic scientist testified that she performed a Y-STR testing, a specialized type of DNA testing that looks only at male DNA on the left-hand fingernail scrapings of Sheri, and she found a partial profile that could not exclude any of the Coleman males as a contributor. Another forensic scientist specializing in the area of firearms, tool marks, footwear, and tire track identification testified that all the footwear impressions located inside the Coleman residence were examined, and they were consistent with at least one of the police officers who was at the scene, except for one possible footwear impression found near the basement window of the Coleman residence. The investigator could not say for sure that it was even a footwear impression, noting that it could have been an impression from a tire on a child's toy, or from a hand truck or a dolly. Okay, another testing lab manager for MI windows and doors in Pennsylvania testified that he does certification testing for all of MI's windows and doors. The Coleman's basement window was manufactured by MI and contains a forced entry resistant plate on the bottom, which means that if someone tried to open the window while that forced entry plate is locked, there would have been damage to it. The Coleman's window showed no damage and showed no signs of being forcibly opened. Okay, and a review of the cell phone records of Chris. And they determine what tower and which side of the tower calls were made on. That they were looking at a map that was created to show where towers had been utilized. Again, that his calls that morning, 5:44 a.m., 6:34, 6:42, 6:43, and 6:53 a.m., and again at 6:58 a.m. The 5:44 a.m. call utilized a tower close to the defendant's residence on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River, while the other calls, 6:34, 6:42, and 6:43, all utilized towers on the Missouri side of the Mississippi River. And the 6:53 a.m. call was made from an area north of a particular tower on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. Okay, then they went through the IP addresses, and that's how they found that those destroyed Chris Gmail accounts were from Chris's computer. So it says here, he testified the account was created on November 14, 2008 on the defendant's, Chris's, Dell laptop computer, which was found at home. So they're coming from inside the house. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Then a professor of computer forensics at Purdue University testified that he reviewed several images of hard drives given to him by the police, including computers from Chris's house, a computer from Joyce Meyer Ministries, Tara's computer, and computers owned by Chris's father and brother, as well as some BlackBerry devices and an AT&T USP air card. He described how IP addresses work and the fact that only one computer can be issued an address at a time. Chris's laptop was able to access the internet via AT&T, and AT&T issued Chris the IP address, and they put his number, okay? So let me go. He testified the antivirus software on the computer was up to date. Let's see what he said. He specifically stated that virus companies are good. Did he say anything that... Nothing much there. Now let's see. They had a linguistics expert analyze those emails, and they found the similarities within the emails to things that Chris had written. Let's see here. 4 witnesses testified reading red spray paint found on the walls of the Coleman residence. They said it was likely from a Rust-Oleum brand of paint called Apple Red. And then that was retired a year prior to trial. Then they had credit cards that were found lying inside the Coleman residence. They got a subpoena for that, and that's when they found that a can of Apple Red Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch spray paint was purchased with that card on February 9th, 2009 at 1:46 p.m. at Handyman True Hardware Store in St. Louis, which is 7.5 miles from the Coleman's house. Okay, and then they analyzed the spray paintings and that they were written by one or two people, and they testified that it's difficult to compare spray painted writings to handwriting because the distinct body motions are very different, but that they found the same inconsistencies within the defendant's journal writings, which indicate a similarity between the writings. Okay. So they went on that, and that was like very intensive. They explained that using a U for the word YOU in informal writing such as email or text is quite common today. And let's see. So during the deliberations, the jury sent out various questions, including a request to see the window and a request for a magnifying glass. Both were given to the jury without objection. The jury also asked to speak to the judge. The trial court responded with a note to make all requests in writing. The jury sent a note in which they requested a definition of reasonable doubt. The trial court responded with a note in which stated, "You will receive no instruction defining reasonable doubt. You have received the instructions on the law that you have sworn to follow and the evidence. Continue your deliberation." The jury also sent a note requesting copy of Dr. Baden's and Dr. Nanduri's testimony. While the trial court and attorneys were discussing how to address the request, the jury sent another note stating, "We are a hung jury." The trial court ceased deliberations until it could provide the jury with transcripts of the doctor's testimony and directed the jury to continue deliberations. Ultimately, the jury convicted Chris Coleman on all 3 counts. The trial court sentenced him to 3 concurrent life sentences. Okay, and let's see here. I want to go to the stuff about the parents. Just hang on for 1 second. stomach is rumbling. Thirsty, I'm not hungry. Okay. I want to get the thing about the parents. Okay, let's see if I can get to this. Because the father, he was in touch with them, and there was also about when he brought the girl home, okay? Okay. All right, so Chris Coleman was a preacher's child. His father Ron and his mother Connie Coleman are pastors. The Coleman boys grew up speaking in tongues, which is they believe is a code from the Holy Spirit, and basing decisions on quotes from Scripture. Chris was reserved. He was the quietest and gentlest of 3 blonde, well-mannered Coleman boys. And his mother remembers, and I remember saying this, that the worst curse word that Chris Coleman has ever said in front of his mother was piss, P-I-S-S. He played sports. She said you couldn't ask for a better kid. He was very kind. He was a team player. He hardly ever lost his temper. One night he went out and he got drunk a little bit. His parents were out of town, but he felt so guilty that he called his high school coach and confessed to his wrongdoings. And he wouldn't go hunting with his father. He couldn't take that. And the first time that they went hunting and then butchered a rabbit, he was beside himself, his mother remembers. He couldn't take that. There was a Marine recruiter that came to his high school, and his parents said that Chris came home and he was thrilled about that, and he loved it, and he signed up right after high school. And his father thinks he would have stayed in military service for life, except that the whole Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky thing was a disappointment, so he stopped being in the military. And then the mother says, and then he met Sheri. So Chris had lots of military certifications and honors. He was 22 years old when he met Sheri. She was 21. He was... Sheri was an MP in the U.S. Air Force. They were both studying K-9 at the K-9 Training Center in San Antonio. And 3 months later, August 1997, his father remembers being at the window of their house and seeing Chris coming in for a visit. And he's like, oh my gosh, honey, he's got somebody with him. He's got somebody with him. So Chris came in, he introduced Sheri to his parents, says, oh, I'm here with a friend who lives in Chicago. And he's going to give her a ride home. And the father's impression of Sheri was that she was a worldly little girl with little short shorts and a tattoo on her leg, and not the person they wanted him to be with. Sound familiar? Yeah. Chris said, I've got to go bring Sheri home, but he never went back to his parents. And the next morning, the phone rang, and his father said, he answered it, and he said, hey, Dad, you're never going to believe this, but Sheri and I got married. And the father was very quiet, and Chris is like, you don't seem excited. And he's like, give me a few minutes. But apparently... Chris realized, according to his dad, that the marriage was not godly. And he was raised in the church by 2 preacher parents, and so his father said that Chris was repentant and over it and broken up. And his mother said, oh, he was just caught up in the moment, and now it's all for a lifetime, and then they found out she was pregnant. So, they were not happy with Sheri. They didn't want that, and so they already had their notions there, right? Let's see this. So Chris kept his hair very short, but he started to grow his hair out in the spring of 2009. But the Saturday before the murders, he went to a hair salon in Columbia for a trim. Sheri went with him after getting her passport taken, her picture for her passport taken, because she was going to go on a mission trip. And Chris said, did you smile for your picture? And the stylist remembers that they were both really excited and they looked fine. She said, oh, they were so cute. So then, let's see, what else did they do after that? Chris, let me see here, started to drink more than he ever had, and Sheri was drinking more than usual, according to a friend, and they said that Sheri asked for another Corona, and Chris snapped and said, get off your arse and get it yourself, you lazy biatch. And they said in 5 years they had never once heard him ever speak to Sheri that way, and they were both uncomfortable, and they just said, we need to go home. Okay. Let's see. When the wake was held for Sheri and the boys, friends said, just do your best not to show that you think he's guilty. And the police were there, the detectives were there watching. Let's see here. I'm trying to think, I want to get to... Sheri was fun, uninhibited, and wildly playful when she met Chris, but then 3 months later she was pregnant. They got married. She was born again Christian, and 12 years later she was devoting her time to the 2 sons, the church, and she was going on mission trips. Tara Lintz was still single. She worked as a hostess at a gentleman's club, cocktail waitress at Derby Lane Dog Track in St. Petersburg. Sheri spoke to her once, saying that Tara's life wasn't reconciled with Christ, and she was praying for her. So Sheri's the one that tells her, go to Joyce Meyer Ministries. It's really good. They're going to be near you, and go ahead and suggest it. And that is where, she meets up with Chris, and the rest is history, right? They start having an affair and all of that. So let's see. What else do I want to tell you about all this? Sheri's mother went to the trial. She sat in the front row. Her father sat behind. Let's see what else. see what else. There was something else I wanted to tell you about the father. Because there was something real wacky with Chris's Pastor Ron. Yeah. Okay. Tara Lintz, when she testified, said that the father said that she called him, Tara called him and said, Pastor Ron, this is Tara. And his thought was, Tara, you shouldn't be calling me, but she asked for our forgiveness and she recognizes now it was wrong. See, but I know there's something in here about Ron and Tara. Very inappropriate. I remember this. Let me see this. Hold on, let me look for this specifically. 1 second. Let me just put this in here. Maybe I wonder if I'm getting this mixed up with, what was the other one? The other one, Powell. Remember Powell? Powell had the father. I might be messing the two up, but I know that Coleman did call Tara about it, and Tara did call the father. But I thought there was something inappropriate where he had like pictures of Tara. Let me just see if this is... Let me just see. Yes, okay. Hold on a minute. I am right on this one. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. Ron Coleman. He had a rather compromising picture of Tara Lintz on his computer. Lintz appeared surprised, said she didn't know anything about it. Now, could that have been Chris over there bringing that there, or like what's going on with that, right? I don't know that they ever explained that, or the father ever explained that. I don't think so. But okay, so Chris, like somebody said, is in the same prison where Chris Watts is. And let me get to your questions or where you guys are. So this was a recap. If you want to see further stuff on this, I have other videos about this. If you just search on the channel, I go into a lot of detail with a lot of stuff here. But Chrissy not so sure. Okay, let me see what you guys said. Frilly said, I don't understand how these people think they can get away with it. If so, well, he thought he had it. You know, he started like these threatening emails months and months before, right? He just thought, okay, this is going to work out great. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? When was this case? 2000, May, they were killed May 2009. Any other questions? Anybody have any other questions? The other one I want to go back and revisit is Christopher Longo, because I did a lot on Christopher Longo. I actually compared Chris, and Chris, which let me just see something. Hang on one second. Just wait a second, please. Let me go to videos. To studio. Content. Videos. Chris. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here's Christopher Longo. See this. Chris Watson, Chris Coleman, a comparison. Chris Coleman's parents and mistress compared to Chris Watts. Let's see what this is. Good, I hope. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. We'll get to that too. Not this, that has to be on its own. Crime Watch Daily by phone from prison. This is what he said. This is his own words, okay? Chris Coleman's words. Actually, what never came out in court is I had 2 laptops, and I traveled with one and I left the other one either at home or at the office. They were never both on me at the same time, and the one that was connected to the threats was the one that I would leave either at home or at work. They never presented that. They never presented at the point of entry there are fingerprints that are unknown. In this petition have state crime, either whoever typed this up, but I think what he's saying, in this petition, the state crime lab reports has a set of fingerprints that are unknown and do not match anyone. Not Mr. Coleman, not his family, not his friends, not any of the police officers, no one. During the trial, a computer expert said that the sender of the threatening emails signed in using Coleman's personal ID. The jury in 2011 was deadlocked for a while, but was ultimately swayed by Coleman's affair with Tara Linst. She wore a promise ring when she testified in court, which I told you yesterday. Coleman told her that he would present his wife, Sheri, with divorce papers on May 4th. I already told you that stuff, let's see. During jury selection, and listening to Coleman's mailbox, the most recent one in a little sexy phone flirtation, but not an affair. I wouldn't do that to my kids. Seen too many divorces and stuff. He says he saw Linz at a Joyce Meyer conference in Florida, but doesn't mention that she joined him at a subsequent conference in Arizona and another in Hawaii. Nor does he mention the promise rings that they wear when they're together. Okay, so talk of marrying in January 2010. Have the Colemans ever thought about divorce? We talked about it a while back, about possibly maybe splitting up or something. You know, it never happened, obviously, Chris says, adding that they got counseling and things have been going awesome. Asked about his finances, he says, I make over $100,000 a year. She don't have to work, but she enjoys it, so I let her work. He lets her work. Come on, he lets her work. Rather than acknowledge the severity of their debts, he mentions a trip that they're planning to take to Disneyland. So we have debt. He doesn't say he canceled it and booked a cruise to the Virgin Islands with Tara instead, Chris just thought that really isn't important at all. No, because that's his friend, remember? So he just canceled a trip to Disney and booked one to the Virgin Islands with his mistress. Well, that she's really his friend, though. Barlow draws on Chris's faith. Believing in what we believe in, knowing we can be forgiven for the sins we do, what do you think should happen to whoever did this? Chris hesitates. He should be put away. Is there any way you think the person who did this maybe has an explanation? Barlow asked gently. I'm sure they have an explanation. Bivens takes over. Do you think you've been 100% honest with us? Yeah. Did my best with it. Did his best with it. Come on now. Can't ask for more than his best. Dad never does. Ron never does. As more information streams in, they lean harder on him. He insists Sheri was alive when he left home. What would you say if I told you I don't think she was, Bivens said. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think she was. She was. She was laying right beside me. Do you think we have the resources and the capacity to determine time of death? Yeah, definitely. I see it all the time on TV. See it on TV all the time. Chris is smart. He watches TV. He sees it all the time. He knows that they can determine the time of death. That's probably where he also saw this, Charles Manson scheme that he put up. They leave again. Chris gulps water down, sits down, then stands up again, restless. He walks across the room. He picks up Bevan's notepad. He turns one page back. Just in case you're wondering, this is the transcript of the police interview with the detectives and Chris Coleman. Back and reads, later congratulated for his brilliance in leaving the notes behind. Bivens will admit he didn't do it on purpose, but he will in the future. Chris is seated again when the detectives return. So, you're saying some madman sat in the shadows and waited for you to leave and then entered your house? Bivens finally asks. That's the only thing I can assume. They leave again. Chris sniffles loudly. A sob comes again. He leans forward, head in hands, and cries. Then he reaches for his water and drinks, sits up straight, gives a shaky sigh. He puts the blanket across the front of his body, covering his arms, and waits. When detectives are out of the room, Chris gets a text from his dad. Wow, this sounds eerily familiar, doesn't it, Daddy? My dad just texted me asking if I needed a lawyer. Do I need to get one for any reason? Well, right now, we're just kind of going over everything with you as far as what you did the night before. Have you seen anyone else outside of your wife? And Chris says, what do you mean? In a romantic way. No, Tara in Florida, I talked to her a ton lately. Just a friend, someone to talk to. Cops asked Chris how Sheri seemed on the morning he left for the gym. Remember, the pathologist concluded that she was already dead. She seemed fine when you left. Nothing that you could tell? No, she was fine. When you left the house this morning, your wife was alive? Oh, yeah. Okay. What would you say if I told you I don't think she was? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I think she was. Chris thinks his wife was alive when he left the house that morning. There was nothing on surveillance video that showed anyone stuck into the home in the middle of the night. Remember, the police officer that lived across the street had put a camera facing the Coleman's house because of the mailbox threats, and no one was detected that didn't live in the house that went in the house. Listen, man, she wasn't alive when you left. She was alive. No, she wasn't. She was, and she was laying right beside me. Listen to me. We can go back and forth with this all day long, but the physical evidence doesn't lie. She was not alive when you left this morning. The children weren't alive when you left this morning. Yes, they were. No. Come on, Chris. They were. We've got to get over this. Were you involved in her death? No. Okay, was someone you know involved in her death? I don't know. And this is when he gets he doesn't answer like Chris does, like, just like, I don't know. He does, like, he felt like he goes this, I don't know, like, he has a little more emotion here at this point. Then you can watch the interrogation, they're on YouTube, but you'll see. Did you know? Did you talk to anybody about arranging her death? No, absolutely not. Detectives now circle back to Tara. Were you having an affair with anybody? No. Okay, so you said you had a good close friendship, but you were actually doing anything that you felt wouldn't be approved by your wife? Some of the conversation, probably. All that circumstantial evidence is beginning to point to Chris as the man who might have had the motive to strangle his wife and boys. Then the cop drops a bombshell. The St. Petersburg Homicide Unit is talking to Tara right now. And she's showing us the pictures that you sent her. You got Tara down there in St. Petersburg spilling her guts to a room full of homicide detectives that do nothing but homicides. And they said, I know you guys were in Hawaii together. I know that she used your credit card, all right, to sit there and pay her bills last month. Tara is Chris's secret mistress, not so secret anymore to detectives. What do you think she's going to tell those guys down there in St. Petersburg about you and this relationship, all right? Columbia, Illinois cops asked St. Petersburg Police Major Shannon Halstead and her team to interview Tara just hours after the triple homicide. When I went to visit Tara at her condo, she answered the door and she was visibly upset. I had a gut instinct that she was going to somehow be an important piece of this investigation. Major Halstead tells Crime Watch Daily, how long have you been in a relationship with Chris? Since late November, early December. Where all have you guys been going together? Phoenix and Hawaii, Maui. What would he tell his wife when he was gone? Oh, he would have just told her he's working. So Sheri was not aware of the affair that you were having? No, I know she suspected, but in the first of 3 interviews with police, Tara reveals that she had become possessive of her married lover. She became possessive of him. He always would take pictures when he's going to sleep to prove that, you know, he wasn't sleeping with her or anything. What does that sound like? He's always in the basement. He doesn't talk to her at all. He doesn't talk to her, and he always sleeps in the basement. See, now, to us, he tried to paint that it was a rosy, perfect marriage. That's what she says, nope, they never kissed, never hugged. But you had even registered on some wedding sites and stuff and looked at some rings. I looked at stuff, but you know, with his job, he, you know, can't be living with anybody unless he's married. Had you guys ever talked about having children together? So then they said, did he send you some type of message shortly after all this happened, after he had come home and discovered all this? He texted me. What was the message from there? And she goes, oh, from then? I'll call you when I can. I'm all right. Tara then reveals Chris texted her only moments ago. Apparently, he was right in the middle of his own interrogation. I got a text. I know you know that. He texted me. I just thought I'd tell you. You know? He just texted you? That's fine. What do you want now? Just that he was thinking about me, and the wake was 3 tomorrow. Columbia, Illinois detectives soon arrive in St. Petersburg, Florida, and in a 3rd interview, they surprised Tara with information about where some of her sexy selfies ended up. Since going through your phone, your computer, and obviously we've done the same with Chris and even his dad's, and there happens to be a picture of you rather compromising on his father's computer. Okay, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know anything about it. Tara is clearly nervous, crossing and uncrossing her legs. Did Chris tell you anything about these? Or that he was planning anything like this? Absolutely not. Did you have any knowledge of these homicides? No knowledge. Like it or not, Your name is Tara Motive. Yeah, exactly. But Tara had absolutely no involvement in triple murders. She's only a witness. Chris Coleman was in a pressure cooker, and Major Shannon Halstad, he was getting pressure from Sheri Coleman. He was getting pressure from the ministry. And then ultimately, I think Tara was giving him ultimatums. These were police interviews, the transcripts of police interviews with Tara and the police that went down there to interview her in Florida. Back in Illinois, Chris Coleman was not admitting any guilt. So cops throw a Hail Mary. We've got to have a come to Jesus type of meeting, and unless you really forgive yourself and you're really sorry for what you did, there's no way that you're going to go to heaven and see your kids and your family again when you die. You're going to go straight to hell. Chris isn't going to hell just yet, but he's on the way to the closest thing, county jail. Okay, so that is a lot on Chris Coleman. That's a lot on his parents. So his parents, seem to be very similar in ways to the Wattses. That I can see right now, while they blame her for the affair, they're saying that that wasn't a motive in the murders and they believe their son is innocent. So because Sheri's deceased, they didn't pull a Sheri killed the kids and then he killed Sheri, nothing like that. He had nothing to do with this, is their stance. So they haven't really, besides that she was a worldly girl and her shorts were too short and she had tattoos, really come out and said a lot of bashing things about her the way that the Wattses had. Let me know if you've heard more bashing statements yet. It's like I said, I'm digging into this case, and I know this is just like a lot of information all at once, and that tends to be what I do, and then I'll narrow it down and take specifics. But just getting like a lot, like an information dump out there. So some of it may be a little out of order or whatever, but it's just giving us all the information, and then we can key in on certain components in different videos. But let me know what you think about how these parents compare to the Wattses, how Chris compares to Chris Watts. And remember, I'm going to tell you about that retired detective that now says that John Bonet's murder, that these Coleman murders, that the Zodiac murders, that I think the Atlantic killings and other ones are all tied to this one serial killer. And he's got this theory on it. It's really like out there. But let me know if you've heard about that one. Anyway, I am going to go now. I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Okay, so, yeah, that's about the, he thought he was going to get away. Chris Coleman did it. He is the one that killed his family for a couple of reasons, right? Because he's a jerk, number one. He's an evil person. Okay, those. But he didn't want to lose his job at Joyce Meyer Ministries, and he didn't want to get a divorce because that is what would make him lose his job. So if he could come up with this elaborate scheme that he was getting all these threatening messages and then this person finally did it, again, he would be this poor guy, can't believe it, his family, and then of course, Tara would not make an appearance right away, but then, just naturally, she would be checking in on her friend's husband, and then, we just connected. It was just, she was sent from God. I think she was sent from God, okay? And that's what he thought was going to happen. He didn't think he'd be sitting in prison with Chris Watts, but that's exactly where he is. And Chris Longo, which I want to talk to you about, because that's like, oh my gosh, that's just a horrific case. And if you haven't heard about Christopher Longo, but I do make a comparison of all three of them. They are all family annihilators, and they all have the first name Chris, but there's other similarities between the three. Anyway, that was Chris Coleman in a nutshell. And anybody have any questions or anything? There is some some current events that I wanted to talk to you about. There was a UPS plane. Do you guys know that went down in Louisville? Also, the other thing I wanted to tell you about was, did you guys hear about that news anchor that killed her mother? Because that's something, there's not much to go over now except that, because not much has come out yet, but she was a news anchor, and in 2015 she went to software sales, and well, she stabbed her 81-year-old mother to death, and then on the 911 call said that she had to do it to save herself, so making it sound like self-defense. So we don't know much more than that. And yeah, that's there are a lot of bomb threats and things like that with Election Day going on, stuff like that. They still haven't found those guys that I told you in SUNY Morrisville that shot that person, and it looks like that person is going to be okay, and they don't have life-threatening injuries, thank God. And I'm trying to think what else is going on. I think a lot of that is, let's see what else is out there, if there's anything else that's come in here, right? It is pretty early still. Let's see. Kentucky State Police searching for a missing 11-year-old girl. Let me see if she is. Sometimes there's good news when I go to look at these. Let me just see. Yep, she's found safe. That's good. See, I love that when I love that when that happens. That's good. She's been found safe. Very good. Okay, and let's see what else we got. I just wanted to show you that news anchor. Hang on a minute. Okay, and you'll look how very different they look. The one picture is an image when she was a news anchor, and the other picture is her mugshot. Oopsie, hold on a sec. Get over there. So she previously worked as an anchor and a reporter for Fox 2 in St. Louis. She's been charged with her mother's murder after she allegedly stabbed and killed her 81-year-old mother, who was, she's a social work psychologist. Let me see here. Her mother was. Let me get a picture of the mother. Hang on. This is her mother, 80. Now they're saying she's 80. Anita Avers. And this is Angeline Mock. She told police she did so to save herself, a statement that may suggest she was claiming self-defense that was said in a 911 call. This happened in Wichita, Kansas, and it was said that it happened on Halloween, and she was standing outside the house. She had cuts to her hands, and her mom was inside, unresponsive in bed with multiple stab wounds. They were both brought to the hospital. The mother died. Let's see. And then a witness, Alyssa Castro, said that she was in the car with her boyfriend when a woman covered in blood ran up to them and begged to use the phone to call 911. She then took that person's phone into the house and called 911. I would be like, you could keep the phone, okay? Thank you. So there's not much else known. We'll see what her excuse there is, because she said, again, she had to save herself. So, I don't know. Oh, and then there's this other thing I wanted to talk to you about. Yeah, that I heard about this today, too. And this looks like one of the Murdaugh kids, and he did live in Savannah, Georgia. And he reminds me very much, I don't know, he just looks very Murdaugh, but 18 years old. He's not alive anymore. Why, you might ask? Because he kicked a shopping cart in Walmart, exiting the store. His name is J.T. Schroeder, and he was stabbed to death. He allegedly kicked a shopping cart of another man. That man was 48 years old, Delano Middleton, and Delano Middleton stabbed him to death at the Walmart October 23rd, and it was in a close vicinity to Savannah. I think it was 10, 15 miles away or something like that. Schroeder was found to have multiple stab wounds and lacerations. Following his death, Middleton was charged with murder. According to the Chatham County court records, it was not immediately clear whether he entered a plea or if he has an attorney. There wasn't one listed. Schroeder's father said that his son kicked the shopping cart, doesn't tell the full story. His father, also named JT, said that the police department's claim that his son had kicked the shopping cart doesn't tell the whole story. He said, my son was never, ever confrontational unless he was confronted first. He rushed to the scene as quickly as possible. He said, I got over there as fast as I could. I saw blood everywhere. He was literally stabbed over 10 times until he bled out and died. So that's a sad story. And which was the other thing I was gonna, shopping cart. Oh yeah, the UPS plane crash, right? So here's a picture of what that looks like. Okay, and this, let me get here. There's at least 7 people killed. Several others are injured after a UPS plane crashed shortly after takeoff near the Louisville International Airport today, Tuesday. The number of fatalities is expected to increase. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear wrote on social media Tuesday night at least 11 people were injured. Officials said earlier. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg confirmed at a news conference Tuesday night that at least 4 people have been killed on the ground. UPS Flight 2976 crashed around 5:15 p.m. local time after it departed from Louisville Airport. The FAA said the aircraft was headed to Daniel Inouye International Airport in Honolulu, Hawaii, when it went down 3 miles south of the airfield. Louisville Airport Public Security Officer Jonathan Bivin said that at the news conference. Bashir said there were no hazardous cargo on board the plane that could create environmental issues around the crash site, but urged residents to follow any shelter-in-place orders. The scene was very active with fire and debris. They warned residents to stay away from Fern Valley and Grade Lane. Let's see here. And that airport serves as the hub of UPS. More than 100 firefighters responded to the crash. They were still battling hotspots as of Tuesday night. Let's see here. O'Neill said the fire had been extinguished enough to allow a formal grid search for any possible victims in the area. Videos of the crash showed the aircraft partially on fire as it sped down the runway before it burst into flames. Anyone who has seen the images and the video knows how violent this crash is, and there are a lot of families that are going to be waiting and wondering for a period of time. We're going to try to get them that information as fast as we can, Bashir said. UPS gave a statement that it was notified of the incident involving one of its aircraft. 3 UPS crew members were on board. It didn't immediately provide more details. We do not at the moment have the status of the crew, Bashir said. I think we're all very, very worried about them. Yeah, prayers for everybody. That's terrible. Here's something when the fire was blazing. Terrible. According to the preliminary flight data from the flight radar, the plane appeared to hit 175 feet in altitude briefly after takeoff. It would have been full of fuel for the flight to Hawaii, which likely led to the significant fire. It was a 3-engine McDonnell Douglas MD-11 manufactured in 1991. It was carrying approximately 38,000 gallons of fuel. And any residents who find debris on their property are warned not to touch it and instead report it through a website that should be live by Wednesday. So, yeah. That's the size of all that. Now let me see where you guys are. Okay. Megan L. says the woman who was stabbed previously said she had the justice system done her job, this kid would have still been alive. Now, Megan L. I saw several people in comments on Facebook, but I never know if that's, something could be true, and there could also be people that are there just putting stuff in. So I never really report that stuff until it's confirmed. But yes, I did see stuff like that where people were saying in comments that they had been stabbed by this man. I don't know that it's true. I have not seen it in a police report or anything yet. So, but I did see it on social media. Melody Buzzard. Yeah, I think I reported on that, and I don't think that's going to have a good outcome, and I hope that channels are not using that as the next Summer Wells or Sebastian, or that those 2 kids in Canada case where, sadly, some cases like that just get used on YouTube, and it's really sad because it doesn't become about the victims anymore. It's just about the creators and how they can stir up views, clicks, and drama. Allegedly, it was a woman who worked for U-Haul. Really, Megan Els? Oh, you did read it on a news station? Okay, because I looked at it real early on. It was early. It was earlier today because I was talking to Jimmy about it like this morning, and at that time I was just seeing it on like Facebook comments about it. So it looked legit, but I wanted to be sure. It's very sad that just people, the way they react today, the way they do these things, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Let me see, what did I have? Callie, Melody Buzzard. I will just look. I don't think there's anything new on that, but let's take a look. Let's see what's going on. The mom switched license plates during a road trip. Yeah, I heard about that. And we've seen this picture right here.
A new development in the search for 9-year-old Melody Buzzard from Santa Barbara County, California. She was last seen with her mother.
Last seen with her mother on October 9th near Colorado-Utah border. Let's see. Mother allegedly switched license plates during their road trip in an apparent effort to avoid detection. On October 7th, Melody and mom left for a 3-day road trip from Lubbock, California to the Nebraska area. Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office said that surveillance images shows the 9-year-old in what appears to be a wig at a Santa Barbara area rental car business on October 7th. Last verified sighting of Melody is determined to be October 9th. That's almost a month ago. The next day, October 10th, Ashley Buzzard came home to Lubbock with the 2024 Chevy Malibu she rented on October 7th, but Melody was not with her. Investigators are now focused on the timeline, October 9th to October 10th. Authorities believe Ashley drove through Green River, Utah, Northwest Arizona, Nevada, and Rancho Cucamonga, California. And this is the map they have here from Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. Of the route. Right there, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office released that map. During the road trip, Ashley Buzzard allegedly removed the Malibu's California license plate. Well, who else did something like that? Jodi Arias turned them upside down, right? And she also rented a car in California and drove to Travis and back again, right? In Arizona. It's not clear. Let's see. She had New York license plates numbered HCG 9677. It's not clear when that plate was put on or if other plates were added at other times. The original California plate was put back on the car when Ashley Buzzard returned it to the rental agency. And here's a picture of Ashley there. Appears the license plate was switched to avoid detection. Of course. Melody is still considered a missing person and no arrests have been made. Sadly, I don't think that is going to be a happy ending, and I think we all know that something tragic happened there, right? Okay. let's see, somewhere, and returned herself to pack the house up. Okay, what'd you say? You said, let me see here. Yes, the stabber was deemed unfair to face trial, and then 5 months later he was deemed for and was sentenced to 2 years for her stabbing, but was released for time served. In Melody's, I heard that the deceased father's side of the family was trying to adopt her, so I think her mom is hiding her. Well, let's hope so, because that would be much, much better than the alternative, right? You think her mom is hiding her? The house was full of boxes, so I think she dropped Melody off. Well, let's hope so, Megan Els. I hope she is alive. I really do. I really do. Normally these things don't end well. Truancy in California isn't a crime, so they couldn't charge Melody's mother for anything there. But if she's lying to the police, she's not telling if she left her somewhere, she could be charged for that. She's lying to the police. What is she saying to the police? She's not saying she left her somewhere. She's being uncooperative, isn't she? Let me see. Okay. Let me see. New details reveal the mother. Is my stomach grumbling? Revealed the mother and daughter traveled across multiple states, and Melody was last seen on October 9th. Authorities say Ashley has refused to cooperate. Excuse me. With authorities or confirm her daughter's welfare. On October 14th, deputies spoke with Ashley at her Olympic residence, but she provided no verifiable explanation for Melody's location. Ashley has remained uncooperative. Melody is considered at risk, 4'6", 60 pounds, brown curly hair, brown eyes. Two were last seen traveling in a white 2024 Chevy Malibu with California license plate, but then it had a New York license plate. Melody's last confirmed location is along the route near the Colorado-Utah border. Yeah, I don't know. I hope she's alive, really, but I don't know. I think she's running from the dad's side of the family who wanted Melody. But what? But how could, if she's a fit mother and stuff, and she has custody or joint custody, they can't just take her daughter and adopt her. She was on the homeschool rolls. I don't know. I don't know, Megan Els. No idea there. Right? Not sure. I think we all hope she's alive, but it's kind of, there's a lot of stuff about it, right? And let's see. Let me check on some other. I just want to see about some other stuff here. What is this about? Is this for real? An elderly mother of 13 wanted another baby. Did you guys hear this? Mary Beth Lewis, 65-year-old mother of 13, had run out of eggs on her own. She had given birth for a final time at age 62 to a child procured by donor sperm and donor eggs. So she did what anyone desperate to be a mother again would do. She crafted a plan to obtain a child through surrogacy. She deceived her husband and an in vitro fertilization clinic and a New York judge in the process. Authorities initially charged Lewis, now 68, with 30 criminal counts. Those reportedly include forgery, falsifying business records, perjury, and attempted kidnapping. Before her legal troubles, Lewis was a young woman who wanted a big family. She had 5 children, all girls. Then, in her mid-40s, she went IVF. Her husband traveled half the month for work, and her children were rapidly growing up. Let's see what's going on here. She didn't like feeling empty, so then babies 6 through 10 were born, but she wasn't done. She persisted in her quest to have babies despite medical mishaps, miscarriages, and raised eyebrows, and despite her husband's ignorance. She had gone behind his back and secretly implanted 2 more embryos, her 11th and 12th children. She waited until Bob was in a good mood, finally told him at 12 weeks. He originally signed for all the stuff. She referred that her husband's initial purchase of the embryos, but he wasn't thrilled, and there were still embryos on ice. The couple was paying $50 a month to preserve their final frozen embryos at a fertility clinic in Syracuse, New York. And then she visited her OBGYN and asked him about implanting 2 more embryos. She had already had 6 cesarean sections, and another pregnancy could cause her to rupture and kill her. The doctor said, "No more babies. It's not safe. You can die." She would not destroy the embryos. That was out of the question. Apparently she's a practicing Catholic. As for giving them to another couple, she claims her husband opposed that because he didn't want genetic siblings of their 3 youngest children to be raised by strangers. But her husband doesn't remember saying this at all. Let's see what else is going on here. She says her husband initially went along with a surrogacy plan to get a surrogate to carry them. And then they had a heated argument. She said, and that's when she went a little bit bonkers. She forged her husband's signature. She signed the surrogacy paperwork. She got pretty good with his signature, she said, over the years. And the husband was none the wiser. The last of the embryos went in for implantation, and the surrogate got pregnant with twins. Now let's see. She said she was going to talk to her husband. She had to make sure he was in a good mood to talk to him. Let's see here. It was 8 weeks till the twins' due date, Mary Beth appeared in court over Zoom. She told the judge that her husband was away on a work trip in Japan, and she logged on with a separate account for him, kept the camera turned off, and when the judge addressed him, Mary Beth said she grunted in assent. Okay, now the judge can tell that voice is not coming from that Zoom window. If how is she doing this? She's running room to room? Come on. The judge took note of odd circumstances, including the advanced ages, as unusual. He reportedly ordered the Department of Social Services to conduct a home study and appointed the unborn twins their own legal counsel. The judge eventually signed the parentage order confirming full parentage rights to the Lewises. That order, unlike other legal correspondence racked up during the twins' gestation, was sent directly to the Lewis house where Bob Lewis saw it. Bob Lewis reportedly contacted the attorney that his wife hired, who reportedly contacted the judge. And Mary Beth says her husband said, "I just reported you. You're going to get arrested." And then they had a custody battle that has spanned 2 years. The twins were born in November of 2023. They're going to be 2 years old now. And Mary Beth Lewis has been charged with 30 counts of criminal behavior. Department of Social Services argued the twins were wards of the state. The sperm and egg donors had waived their parental rights. The surrogate was uninterested in raising the twins. Well, who's been raising them for the 2 years? The Lewises were not the genetic parents of the twins. The twins were related to the Lewises' other children. And I thought the father said he didn't want the other children not to be raised together. Lewis rejected 3 plea deals, and then her lawyer discovered procedural flaws in the case, and the judge recused himself. A new judge, Matthew McCarthy, declared Mary Beth and Bob Lewis the legal parents of the children. On October 20th, the twins' second birthday, just around the corner. Okay, so she ended up with the kids. But who? Let's see. A question from one of Lewis's friends summarizes the contradiction at the heart of the mother's actions. If she's such a staunch of a Catholic, then if God was done having her have babies naturally, why not stop rather than go this route of fertilizing? Lewis might have adopted or contented herself with caring for the children and grandchildren. She's apparently opted for a more selfish route, one with placed enormous strain on her husband, her existing children, 2 toddlers, their foster parents, the legal and foster systems, and herself. Okay, so they got the kids. So I don't even understand what the heck. All it did was now just confuse those kids like crazy because they spent the first 2 years with foster parents. I don't know. Crazy. What is this? Oh, this is, what's this? Let's look at this one. Dating. Pregnancy, dating. North Carolina man is arrested for the murder of a nurse that he met on a dating app. He FaceTimed and then FaceTimed his friends hours after her death to show them her body. What a wacko. Christopher Whitley, 31, was charged with first-degree murder in connection with the strangling death of his girlfriend, 34-year-old Oriole Lowe. Police found Lowe's dead body inside her apartment in Durham, North Carolina on September 10th. Authorities were dispatched to Lowe's apartment after a series of 911 calls from Whitley's friends who said Whitley had confessed to Lowe's murder and recorded images of her body to prove it. This man just murdered his girlfriend. My friend just called me. He murdered his girlfriend, and then he switched to FaceTime, and she's lying on the floor, one friend told a 911 dispatcher. Whitley's friend made that 911 call at 10:22 a.m. on the day of the murder. The caller said she believed Whitley was at Lowe's house and gave the dispatchers his name and number. Police used that information to contact Whitley's phone service, which tracked Whitley to Lowe's apartment. Police were dispatched to Lowe's address, and he was barricaded inside the apartment with a gun, which triggered a standoff with officers. He eventually surrendered himself to the police after speaking with family members on the phone who persuaded him to turn himself in. When they got into the apartment, the paramedics officially declared the woman deceased at 2:30 p.m. Investigators say that several hours had elapsed between the time of the murder and the time first responders found her body. Her death certificate said she was strangled. Around 5:30 a.m., Whitley started calling his friends later that morning. One of the callers told dispatchers she feared Whitley would retaliate for the police call, telling the 911 dispatcher, "I'm the only one that effing knows he's going to know it's me." However, another one of Whitley's friends also called authorities to tell them Whitley committed a crime against his girlfriend. And family members say that Lowe had been quietly dating Whitley for about 3 months after meeting him on a dating app. Her stepmom said her daughter was being private about her relationship, leading the family to believe more was happening than she would admit. I think he may have been overpowering her based on what I've seen, so she may have been afraid to speak up if he was there, said Teresa Lowe. After her death, other women took to social media to recount their abusive relationships with Whitley after meeting him on dating apps. In 2019, Whitley was convicted of assault causing bodily injury to a family member. He was given a suspended sentence of a year in prison and 15 months probation for the crime. She just picked the wrong guy, unfortunately, and she didn't know how to vet him, said Lowe's stepmother. What I'm upset about is those dating apps. They need to do more background checks. Lowe's mother said that her daughter wanted to be a mom and find a good guy and settle down and have kids, and now all of that has been taken away from her. All that promise. We're robbed of that part of her. All the words you've heard 1,000 times, they're so true, said Lowe's father, Paul. You're just numb. You don't know how to feel for a while. It's a unique kind of pain, losing a child. Family members started a GoFundMe to raise donations for Lowe's burial expenses. They wrote that Lowe had just started working her dream job when she was killed. She was a nurse whose calling was to save lives. She had begun her dream job in nurse anesthesiology at Duke University Hospital, a path she worked tirelessly to achieve. She was kind, brilliant, full of promise, and deeply loved by her family, friends, and colleagues. If she wasn't at work, she was at church or finding ways to care for others. Whitley, on the other hand, remains in jail without bail. Very sad. Terrible. Trying to see if we can find something that's a little bit of a better story to end on, huh? Let's see. my gosh. An American father and son were killed by a swarm of hornets on vacation. Where was that vacation? On a vacation zip line. Oh my gosh, where was that? They were from Idaho. They were visiting. They were in Vietnam. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Hold on here, let me... Let's put this up here. Daniel Owen and his 15-year-old son, I mean, I don't think they got a very recent picture, huh? 15-year-old son Cooper were at Green Jungle Park near the city of Luang, and the incident occurred on October 15th. Owen was about to turn 47, or just had. The pair were first taken to be treated, confirmed the incident. A doctor added that it was very brief and rushed and said he didn't have any further information to provide. A U.S. Department of State spokesperson separately confirmed the deaths of the two American citizens, but said that out of respect for the privacy of family and loved ones, they have no further comment. Owen and Cooper were stung by hundreds of what appeared to be Asian giant hornets as they were descending from a tree with their guide at the adventure resort. The father and son were reportedly conscious when they arrived at the clinic and showed no signs of anaphylactic shock. However, they died a few hours later after being taken to the hospital. Let's see here. Wow. A doctor at the clinic said that their bodies were covered in red spots. It was very, very painful. A lot of stings, more than 100 over their whole body. I thought already this is a very dangerous situation because I have never seen it as bad as this. The Asian giant hornet, or Vespa mandarinia, is an invasive hornet native to Asia. The hornets are the world's largest and are distinct from Asian hornets, which are sometimes found in the UK and Europe. The world lost two good ones. Dan was a beloved and caring principal at QSI School. He and his son Cooper will always be in our memories and prayers. So they were living in Vietnam and they were on a vacation in Vietnam, but they were U.S. citizens and they were both died because of hornets. Oh my gosh. Oh boy. Okay, well, that wasn't a more uplifting story, which I was trying to find. Let's see if we can find something. Okay. Jake Paul canceled a fight because he was having kidnapping allegations. Let's see, that's... Well, it's pretty bad that I can't find a, some kind of a good story. Let me see. Oh, there's just not many feel-good things out there, okay? Well, usually I can find something. This is crazy. Oh, Alex Murdaugh. Okay, this is Alex Murdaugh that maybe we'll do a members movie night since it's early. Maybe we'll go and revisit some of that Murdaugh Hulu docu-series, but I want to let you know that Alec Murdaugh is slamming it. So let's hear what he's slamming, and then how about we do that? Let me know if you want to do that. We'll open up and do a member movie night. Uh-oh. Get over there, Alec. So it says, let's see what he has to think of this. He says, so I mean, he's watching Hulu behind bars, I guess, right? The Hulu limited series titled Murdaugh, Death in the Family is a dramatic retelling that chronicles the moments leading up to and immediately after the shotgun killings of Murdaugh's wife, Maggie, and teenage son, Paul. However, amid the series' release, Murdaugh has denounced the dramatization of his family's tragic story. His defense team said in a statement that he is deeply disappointed and disturbed by the recent Hulu streaming series about him and the entire Murdaugh family. He goes on to accuse the television series of misleading viewers and misrepresenting the Murdaugh's relationships with both his wife and youngest son. The program contains numerous inaccuracies and misleading portrayals that distort the truth of their lives. The depiction of their personal family dynamic is particularly troubling as it totally mischaracterizes Alex's relationship with his wife Maggie and his son Paul, both of whom Alex loves so dearly. Let's see what else. He also claims the show's producers did not consult his legal team or family members to corroborate their version of events as the series was being made. And this is the cast, and they are very, especially the actor playing Alec is like a dead ringer. And then they said equally concerning is the lack of engagement by the producers or actors to understand the individuals portrayed. No one from Hulu ever reached out to Alex, his son Buster, or anyone in the Murdaugh family, or Alex's attorneys to hear their perspective or verify the facts. Instead, the program appears to rely heavily on sensationalized accounts from secondary sources with no direct knowledge or relationship with him or his family. Hulu has not responded. Let's see. Let's see if they said anything else here. Let's see. We urge viewers to approach this dramatization with the knowledge that it is not an accurate portrayal of Alex, his family, or the tragic events that it sensationalizes. Okay. All right. Deeply disappointed, okay? Deeply disappointed. So, take it with a grain of salt. But what I'm going to do is put the Zoom number. So if you're not a member and you want to become a member and do fun things like this, you can hit the membership link. And I'm going to put this in for the members and Patreons, and then we'll go and have a fun movie night. Let me go do this, okay? Hang on. Go to YouTube. Give me a second, and then we're going to play the word game once they get this down. Then we'll play the word game, and then let's create, post. Okay. Let me preface it with channel members, post, and let me do the Patreon, and then we'll do the word game, and I hope that you guys had fun tonight. Well, I don't know if it's fun. That's informative, hopefully. Patreon. Patreon. Create. Create. Come on now. All right. There, I've got those in. Let me get the word game on. Here we go. All right, here's our daily puzzle. This'll clear our heads. I should have remembered this will clear our heads. Right? That's why we do this. Fan, can, uh-oh. Get over there. Get over. What did I just do? I don't even know what I just did there. Cap and a full. Huh. What can we do here? Did one. Oh. Cola. Let's see if it's cola. No, but good try. Oh, I know, loaf. See, I have to look at all the letters sometimes. I tried flan. It wasn't there. We only have a 5-letter and a 6-letter word. Oh, focal. That's one. Okay. Now what could be the other one? Focal. Falcon. Falcon. There we go. Got it. Okay. So we're going to go into the movie night. So are you going to join us? If you're going to join us, come on down. Everybody should see the member number in your member posts on the community tab. If for some reason you don't see it there, or you don't see it in Patreon, if you're Patreon, you can email me. Okay? And you don't need to show your face. You just come on to, you just have to download the Zoom app. You sign into the Zoom, and we watch the movie. All right? So I hope you'll come join us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up. If you're ever able to hype a video, please hype it or share it out. Tell your friends and family. And help our algorithms. Thank you. And let me see where we were. I gotta see how to close this thing down. I think on this one. Here we go. Good night, everybody. God bless. Prayers. I love you guys. Be good. Be nice. Be kind.